Welcome to Season 4 of John McGivern's Main Streets.
Let's learn more, Emmy, okay?
Okay.
The Main Streets podcast takes you behind the scenes of this popular PBS Wisconsin program. Now, get the inside scoop on this week's episode from hosts John McGivern and Emmy Fink and the Main Streets producer and director Lois Maurer.
I love Door County, and I'm so happy to be back from Sturgeon Bay. We had a good time. I'm here with Lois, who is our executive producer, of course. Hello, Lois.
Hello, my friend.
We love Sturgeon Bay, don't we?
Especially since it's Door County, and I think so many people short shrift it.
Okay.
Don't you think?
We'll talk about it.
Okay,
Yes.
let's talk.
Emmy, how are you?
I'm great,
We
but
had a
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It doesn't get as much love, but to be continued. Go ahead.
That's Emmy, our co-host, and we're here with Emily, who is the producer of the episode. Hi, Emily.
Hi, hello.
You want to talk about it? What did you find when you went and did the site survey? And are you pleased with what you chose?
Very pleased, right? We all love Door County, but what people may not have known is how great Sturgeon Bay is before you get up into everything in the peninsula. So there's just lots of hidden gems there, museums, restaurants. You know, couldn't showcase everything, but we tried to showcase it all.
Right. And it's a city. I mean, Sturgeon Bay is a city. It's not like, oh, let's go to the village of, or the burg of, or the town of. We were in the city of Sturgeon Bay, which is really the introduction, the first thing you get to when you go to Sturgeon Bay, which is why you feel some sort of short. Look at you.
It's okay. Well, first, when we did the site survey, Emily and I went together. It really feels like two cities because of that Brit, right? It's kind of split down the middle by Sturgeon Bay. And it was like, we got there and we're like, oh, and I'm thinking, okay, this is good. And then Emily's like, no, wait, go over the bridge. We were over the bridge. I'm like, wait, now it's another city. She's like, no, it's all Sturgeon Bay. And, you know, I'm a Wisconsin girl. I am born and bred here, and I did not know about Sturgeon Bay, what I should have, because this is the truth. It's one of those cities that is, I have done the other show and done this show. I go right over that bridge and keep going. And can I tell you, that's the wrong thing to do, because Sturgeon Bay should be your destination.
You go over the big bridge. You don't make your way into town, go over the steel bridge.
Did once, though, because the big bridge was closed and we had to go through over the steel bridge.
You did.
And I just, like I said, kept going, I'm embarrassed to say. And so I will definitely stop now.
Yeah.
And not just for gas. You're going to stop and stay a while for a little bit.
Exactly. Because now I know where to go in Sturgeon Bay, too. And there's a lot of fun things to do there.
I have a history in Sturgeon Bay because back in the 80s, I was an actor at Peninsula Players. And before I was an actor at Peninsula Players, I lived on a farm right outside of Sturgeon Bay, because I worked at Glidden Lodge in Velmay with a comedy troupe.
This sounds very communal. You lived on a farm outside.
On a farm. It was very communal.
Kidding.
And I was kind of like, this place is kind of dusty. Do you know me? Like I had problems with the whole kind of farm, sort of like, there's dirt in the house, sort of thing.
I can't imagine it.
But I had a history, and we spent a lot of time in Sturgeon Bay. And I know people from Sturgeon Bay. I've seen Jackson Browne at the Steel Bridge concerts.
Yes.
And so I have a history in Sturgeon Bay. And I've always known that it's quite the community.
Is its vibe the same now as when you were there, or is it
No,
different?
it seemed much more, and however this sounds, much more industrial, because the steel, the shipbuilding was huge. The contracts with the government were huge.
So more industrial then?
Than now.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's much more destination for tourists, I believe.
Although Fincantieri is
still there, and that's still impressive, whether you're someone who, you know, is just amazed by going to look at ships, or just just passing through and you see it on a whim. It's impressive no matter which way.
Was it hard to get us in there?
I thought I was going to be emailing for months, try to get you guys in there and access, but they welcomed us with open arms. There's just something to see in every corner of those buildings and every corner of that shipyard.
Yeah,
and
but the hardest thing about Fincantieri was trying to pronounce it, because everybody in Sturgeon Bay calls it something different. Because Emily's Italian, Emily Annunziata.
So I gave it a little extra Fincantieri, just gave it a little extra oomph.
Right. And then we're like, is it Fincantieri? Is it Fincantieri? And then everybody kind of has their own twist. And then we got there and I was like a little nervous about, okay, are we going to say this right? And John was just like, how did you pronounce it?
Fincantieri.
And the guy was like, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Say anything fast enough.
Right.
It's over and done with, and then they're like, "What did she say?" It's just like, just gonna.
Seems fine.
Yeah, right.
I love that they took us to the top of that crane, that we
Wow.
interviewed the guy right in the, like as high as you, and I have no problem with heights. I have no problem crossing a ladder. Let me climb up that ladder. Let me cross over. And poor Brian, who is our shooter, who is our photographer, was like,
So you said yes, and then he realized he had to follow you.
What was it like
goodness.
on the top then? What was it? What
very
was it like up
cool.
there?
And you could see, you could. I mean, I could see my house from here. It's like you could see all over. It's beautiful.
That question is answered by everybody differently. How was it? John just said, oh my God, it was really cool. Gail said, this is the worst place I've ever been because it was so windy. And Gail's our audio girl. And I kept looking back at her like, are we going to be able to use this? And she's throwing up her hands like, what the hell are we doing on the top of this crane in the middle of a tornado?
Is there an elevator? Right, there's an elevator up. Or is it
Spooky
stairs?
one, yeah.
There's an elevator that
Yeah.
goes so far, then you climb up some stuff and get onto another sort of elevator that only fits 4
Yeah.
and equipment and 4 people in an elevator to get to the top of the world was very cool. I loved it.
How far was this place from the Maritime Museum?
Everything's right there on the waterfront, so close.
Not
I
far.
mean,
Okay.
It's on the other side of the bridge and then
Right.
over some,
Okay.
but it's on the same, of course, body of water.
Right.
when you see the drone shots in this episode, then you'll get it. I mean, it's one of those cities that you almost have to get up high to understand, oh, that's how it's laid out. Because when you're driving around Sturgeon Bay, I didn't get the perspective. And when you see the drone shots, you'll be like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
It sounds beautiful.
It's a city of water, absolutely sure. And the most impressive thing to me there was the museum. That Maritime Museum was, do you remember?
I do.
It was vertical. And we decided to divide it up by who's going to do which floor. So we had John start on 10, and then Emmy did 9, and then John did 8. And so I'm sitting down with the footage now, and
You
that
know
one-
she's going to have to cut half the floors out.
Guess
Because
what
it's going to
happened?
run long. It's going to be my
Not
half.
long. I'm telling you, the first cut at that segment is like 7 minutes. It needs to come down to like 2, you guys. So
Yeah.
I'm like, now I'm regretting the way I handled it because I was like,
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a good idea. But Kevin had so much good information about every single floor that I realized that should have been a half-hour documentary on its own.
He was really interesting.
Yeah.
He was really interesting. And again, not one of those who had his speech.
Right.
He in whatever we inquired on, he grabbed it and ran with it like he knew his stuff.
Right.
And it wasn't
Yep.
stock footage, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
It was good.
And that was another instance of Maritime Museum. That would have an interest to anybody who is in Sturgeon Bay. You don't have to be a maritime fanatic to
No.
go in there and find something that interests you. I mean, the view from the top you can't beat, and then how each floor is a different kind of time in history. It's just fascinating.
And tiny.
Loved it.
Each floor is tiny. So you can get through a floor in 3-4 minutes. The whole
You
floor.
don't read anything.
Well,
Like you never read anything.
And buttons to push and boats to,
Right.
Yeah.
there's lots of
Ships to
interactivity
sink.
along the way.
Yeah, all
Yes.
the things. Maritime museums are a challenging one for us from a content perspective, though, because I guarantee that between the Mississippi River and Lake Michigan, when we're around the Midwest, there are a lot of maritime museums. There's a lot of people that celebrate their heritage, and to pick one for a season is hard. But I do have to say, when Emily and I saw this one, slam dunk.
kind of had to.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was really great.
We stayed at the inn at Cedar Crossing.
Yes,
And we covered the inn at Cedar Crossing,
right.
which we should have because it's a
Well, we were going to cover it anyways, and then that's another example of we can't afford to stay here. And then they said, well, we'll meet the rate that you guys can afford. And we were like, awesome, because it was right downtown. Everything was close. It was
Yeah.
lovely. Good restaurant, good bar. Not that we know about those things, but
Yeah. It's interesting for me to stay at places like that because you're right. They're beautiful. They're well appointed. They're practically for me though. Just like I have to have an iron. I have to have an ironing board. I have to have an alarm clock. I have to have like all of these things that are
He has
work.
to not be by an elevator, can't be by the ice machine. Don't put me on a floor with pets or kids. There's some requirements.
You
for my
want
friend,
you want
Mr.
a fridge
McGivern.
for your food.
Yes.
I
There's
want
like
all of that stuff
staples.
because we're at work. And this is what work is for me. So when you go to these places that are like B&Bs or like these inns where it's just like, I'm like, this doesn't work for me practically.
You want to meet in the dining room and play Scrabble in half an hour? Just
Exactly. Come down and we'll all have a, no, I'm not coming. No, I'm not.
It's my time.
Right. So, but a beautiful place and has been there for a very long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
She's managing it. Reagan is managing it really well, though.
Yep.
It's kind of another example of Sturgeon Bay coming up now. Do you know what I mean? It felt like that to me. Did it feel like that to you?
Yes.
Like it's sort of on the rise.
Growing.
Yeah.
Everything you said about having been traveled to so many different towns in Door County, I was the same way. I have featured, I think, every other town for other shows and segments that I've worked on and have never even stopped outside of, like you said, to get gas.
Wow.
So there was just to see the main drag along by the hotel that we stayed in, and then the whole other one by that great coffee shop. We went in and met those guys. Remember, they gave us
The artists.
Yes.
I mean, that have the art gallery. That's
Yes.
part of the coffee shop.
They were so
cool.
interesting, but
Yes.
two completely different downtowns. So fun.
A lot of choices in Sturgeon Bay that way. We're aware of.
My partner Steve's family is Sturgeon Bay. Oh, right. Deep roots. Way Gills Rock, way north. They're from old Norwegian fishing family. That's where his roots come from. So, but his sister now lives. He has a sister and nieces that live in Sturgeon Bay. He has a sister and a brother that live in Sister Bay. His mom lived in Gills Rock. So my relation is my in-laws all are Door County and now Sister Bay and Sturgeon Bay people. So,
All the bays.
all bays
Right.
for the gays. That's how that works. It's good. It was a good episode. Can we talk about Kathy Greer?
Oh,
Yes.
Did you love her? How
I-
did you find her, Emily?
So the one thing that I did not know about Sturgeon Bay is how music focused it is.
Yeah.
People travel there to be creative and explore their talents, and she's someone that everyone kept recommending to me to talk to as the face of Sturgeon Bay and the music scene.
Right.
We went up the day before, and Emily was able to convince Kathy to do a private show so that we could tape her performing.
Right.
Yeah, she was great, and so excited to meet you all.
How are you?
I'm great. Nice to be
I'm
with
really
you.
excited to meet you. How did this happen for you?
As a songwriter, I heard about the Steelbird Song Festival in 2016, and so I drove all the way from New York City out here for a week. And while I was here, somebody said, "You're going to move here." And then I looked around at the real estate, and I said, "Maybe I will."
Right, there you go.
Favorite thing I found during my research is the Dodge County Forge Works. He is an internationally known weapons expert, medieval weapons expert. He makes them by hand, featured on historical commentary, but just very fascinating.
What's his name?
Richard Furrer.
And he does it in
Rick.
the garage of his home. And the week after we came back talking with this guy, somebody had said, "Oh, my nephew who lives in Connecticut flew to Sturgeon Bay to take his workshop." I'm like, wait a minute, really? Yeah. So he's known all over the world, really. And he's known from the History Channel, this guy.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're into all those TV shows that, swords and knives and just all that armor stuff,
Blacksmithing,
he
too.
is the one that can tell you how they survived or didn't survive back then and can recreate them.
It's amazing.
And again, right, works out of his garage at home.
That if that was a garage, that was like a barn. It was full.
Yeah.
Right.
It was full. First of all, it was completely full, and it has machines in there that can like hammer stuff. 80,000 pounds of force with 3 hammers in a second. I mean, literally. I was like, what? How do you get this here even? Because he literally lives like in a neighborhood, right? It wasn't that far.
It was out in the country.
Was it?
It was out in the country where they had no restrictions on anything.
Because there was stuff all over the yard.
I was like, first of all, it's not a clean job to do. So
No.
when we walked in, I was like, Liz, did you know we were coming? Because it's kind of messy in here. But then you got to know that, but no, this has nothing to do with like, it's not like I'm going to keep my office clean.
John,
Right.
That's exactly what Emily said when we site surveyed it. We walked in there and she was like, oh my God, John's going to hate this.
I said, Lois, I can't. Lois, John is just going to.
I loved him. He was
That-
great. And he was wide open to do anything.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah,
But
and
I even said to him, this place is messy.
can't we make this craft a little cleaner?
Can we clean up before we... Brian, wait a minute.
Did you change your shoes? Tell me you changed your shoes to like
but
some
there's
older
a
ones.
picture that we sent to Steve, and there's a picture of me in the big leather vest, and then Steve was like, "Look at your shoes," because I have. What do I have? I have wingtips on.
Yes.
It was all
Just
wrong.
like they did in the old days.
You just can't hide the classiness that is John McGivern. You can't.
All right, yeah. We were at an orchard. Remember the orchard?
Oh, do I remember the orchard? I absolutely love that family.
Oh yeah.
The Robertsons, I'm telling you.
5th generation run.
Yes.
So 5 generations in there.
So we went to talk to Skip, who is the 5th generation. And Emily, you found him because of a YouTube channel, did you not?
Right, YouTube or Facebook. It was just these little cell phone videos that he put up, and they were just kind of sarcastic and hilarious. And I was like, oh, this is just, I love this. So investigated, and 5th generation run, Sturgeon Bay proud. So I just had to explore it a little bit.
When you first make those phone calls to, like this sounds just like kind of like a mom and pop orchard type place. I mean, something like that, being featured on this show that airs all over the Midwest. I mean, sometimes I bet they just don't even know what to say.
Usually it's like, well, why? And so I'll have to explain, they're so busy and doing what they do that they forget that it's pretty freaking cool. So that it's pretty cool.
Right.
So, right.
And a huge opportunity for their business.
Mm-hmm. Look, that's 5 generations, and people specifically choose to go to you when there's other orchards all around that area, but they just love coming to you. And it's because of the way that you've run things for so long.
They were storybook though. They were like the perfect couple with the kid that was perfect. And the house that looked great. And then the dad showed up who was like, you're kind of handsome too. It was like, my God, this is all just perfect. So it was like the fact that you found this place, and when you drove up, it was like, what a beautiful looking orchard.
Yeah.
What a beautiful, oh my, this is the family. This is out of Central Casting.
Had it been cherry blossom season, I think that would even be even more like,
right.
come on, this is not real.
You're right.
But it was real. They were real as can be. It was.
But the dad wasn't supposed to be, like, we didn't know the dad was going to be there.
wasn't
so
gonna
we
be part of
showed
it.
up, and we're talking to Skip and his wife, and I'm like, is that your dad? And he's like, yeah. And he said, I said, will he talk to us? He's like, yeah, he's not, he doesn't like that. He's not going to talk to you. He would have talked to you all day, John.
He's calling me now. He chatted.
And he's proud of his son, and he's proud of
Yeah.
the farm and the legacy, and he was really good. He was really good.
Oh, I
And
love these
You
stories.
talk about finding places that, they may not be on the official website for cities, but if you search and you find people's social media posts, what they're liking and what they're posting about, that's really where you find the hidden gems in these communities, is going kind of off the radar a little bit.
And that's what you're really good at.
What a good way to do it,
Good
Emily.
job,
to
Emily. Keep up the good work.
Yes. We have a fan shout out. Beth Gallagher from Arlington Heights, Illinois. Thank you, Beth, for all your support.
Yes, thank you, Beth, and everyone else who watches. We also want to give a shout out to Stevens Point because they are a community sponsor of ours.
Wisconsin
Community sponsor, right. And gosh, I love Stevens Point. There are so many great places to visit. Point Brewery, Green Circle Trail, if you like to bike, throw the bikes on and go experience some beauty up there. And you have a favorite spot?
Oh, who doesn't? Century World in Stevens Point is unbelievable. Oh, it's beautiful golf, but a beautiful facility. But Stevens Point is a sponsor that is in our underwriting credits because we do have communities around Wisconsin, especially Wisconsin, because we know them. We've got a long history here. Mm-hmm. And there are some communities that especially see our Greendale spots and say, hey, you guys shout out Greendale. What about us? And we were like, yeah, what about everybody else? So I think it was great. That was Emmy's idea to bring communities to the show. And it's a good little nod to them, too. Remind people that there's other places besides the one we're featuring that week. So.
Absolutely. They so badly want to be in front of the John McGivern Main Street's audience, even if they're not featured as a featured community. And
because your fans travel, John McGivern.
Thank you, Stevens Point, for your support. That's really great. So that's Sturgeon Bay. That's episode 3 of season 4 of John McGivern's Main Streets. Good talking to you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Bye. Thanks, John.
Want to wear something that's going to support your favorite show? Shop at Main Street Store. Proceeds go to help us get next season into production. So come on, go shopping at mainstreets.tv.